Our next guest turned his love for the game of football into a successful career as an Emmy Award-winning producer and director for NFL films. But while Notre Dame alum Digger O'Brien's professional life was flourishing, he and his family were struggling to come to terms with his oldest son, Frederick's diagnosis of severe autism. Digger tells his family's extraordinary story in his memoir, Pointing is Rude, One Father's Story of Autism, Adoption, and Acceptance. Digger, thanks so much for coming here today. It's really a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Before we get to the book, let's talk about your career at NFL Films, because I mean, when I hear a producer at NFL Films, I'm thinking, you get to do football 24/7, 365.
It's wonderful.
Is it that great?
It is. In the past year, I've actually moved over to the league office. I'm now in the entertainment side of the NFL. But yeah, for 21 years at NFL Films, did a lot of great, fun things. And actually, it was a Notre Dame connection that got me the job. I found in the back of Notre Dame magazine. Greg Coes is a big commercial director now, was a graduate, and I was working at the NBA, and I want to work at NFL Films, so I wrote to him, and Steve Sable's right-hand man, Bob Ryan, was a huge Subway alum, so actually over the years I've done some Notre Dame pieces on Mike Ruffer, and did Onward Notre Dame, which was the 2012 season recap, so it's been great.
When you wrote an article for Monday Morning Quarterback on Peter King's blog, about Pointing is Rude, you talked about how when you and your wife Bernadette found out that Frederick indeed had severe autism, was it something you suspected, or was it something that the doctors had to tell you?
It was sort of like that line from Sun Also Rises, how'd you lose your fortune at first, you know, oh no, I forget the line. At first gradually and then suddenly, basically. And it was little things, and then all of a sudden you're in a doctor's office and you've had worries and concerns, and then the doctor's talking about how you know, your son's in a car going 20 miles an hour and his peers are going 40 miles an hour, and they're going to lap him, and a good goal for him would be to know how to ask for directions if he's lost as an adult. It's just hard.
I read that, and that just broke my heart. I thought, how can a doctor tell you something? It sounded so limiting. So how is Frederick doing today?
He's sort of in the is what it is category. He's not going to live an independent life, but he's wonderful and fun. And you know, the thing I wish I'd realized back then is your job as a parent is to have your children hit their ceiling, and no matter what that is, if they're going to end up here at Notre Dame or if they're not. And so I wish I had known that from day one, but it's the acceptance part is there now.
You have 4 children.
Yes.
And Frederick is a twin, right?
He is a twin.
He has a sister,
twin.
Grace.
Yes.
And then you adopted a young boy from Ethiopia,
Yes,
Julian. And I understand that Frederick and Julian have kicked a very special relationship.
They're the twins now, and it is interesting. Like Grace and Frederick weren't twins very long. Yeah. Grace is completely unaffected from the diagnosis, but Julian and Frederick, it's like that Danny DeVito Schwarzenegger movie, twins, and they're good buddies, and they enjoy the same things. And Frederick is always looking out for Julian, and Julian is always saying things like, "Breathe, Frederick, calm down." And Julian says he wants to be a life coach now because of how he helps Frederick.
Oh,
and
really?
He's 8.
Oh my gosh. Who knew that an 8-year-old would know what a life coach is?
I need it.
In doing stories with parents who have autistic children, 2 things I've learned. One is the parents say, I wish sometimes I was wearing a t-shirt that said my child has autism, because I'm not really a bad parent. This is just what's happening. And because sometimes the kids act out, sometimes they have meltdowns. And then I talked to another parent who said, for parents or for people who have not been around autistic children, when you see behavior that you might find disturbing, the most important thing is to lead with love, lead with kindness, which I always thought is a great idea.
I like that, but we were in both camps. I mean, my daughter, my oldest, was probably 11 at the time. We decided to go out for my wife's birthday, which we rarely tried to do, and it didn't turn out well. And at the end of the night, my daughter's crying, saying, "I wish Frederick had something worse." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She goes, I wish he had Down syndrome or something, or just something where people could tell what it was instead of thinking he's a bad kid."
So what would you say to people who don't have a child with autism when they see somebody, they're out to dinner and a child melts down? Don't be so instantly judgmental.
Absolutely. You know, you just want to let... You don't know what's going on, and I wish I had known that as well. But you don't know what's going on, and if there is something going on, like I said, I like that line, lead with love. It's something that we could all learn from.
Digger, thank you so much. Once again, the book is Pointing is Rude, and it's a wonderful memoir, very realistic memoir of what it's like to have a child with autism.